Tell me, what do you think of that kelp soup, Bridger?
It's yummy.
That's a yummy kelp soup.
Mmm.
Welcome to Ketchikan, Alaska News. Today I'm going to be visiting with Mark Scheer from Seagrove Kelp and Seaweed, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his venture here in Southeast Alaska with growing seaweeds. So, welcome, Mark. Tell us a little bit about your history. You grew up here at Ketchikan and working in the seafood industry. What led you to doing this?
Yeah. So I moved to Prince of Wales in 1982, and my mother was a tree thinner and lived on the island for a number of years. Came to Ketchikan in '85 and started working for Silver Lining. I ended up working for them for about a dozen years. I graduated from Ketchikan High School in '86 with Larry, and then. After that, I went to law school and I practiced law in the maritime and seafood industry for about 20 years. As part of that, I started getting involved in mariculture development in Alaska through the Alaska Fishery Development Foundation. I've been on the board there for 12 or 13 years now, and was part of the original group that started working on the Alaska Mariculture Initiative, which then resulted in the creation of the Alaska Mariculture Task Force. And through that, I started looking at mariculture as an opportunity to, primarily because I kept looking at thinking, why hasn't this happened? It seemed like such an obvious fit for this to kind of be a central component of, in particular, Southeast Alaska's economic picture.
Sure.
We have all of this pristine water. We have seafood processing facilities. We have boats and people that know how to work on the water and infrastructure and transportation networks. And I've been in the seafood business now for 35 years. I knew a lot of the people that are involved in the industry, and it really seemed like we had all of the basics for it. And it's not that it hasn't been happening, but it's just been kind of the scale of it hasn't been to the point where it's been beyond the cottage industry into something that is really able to provide the maximum benefit and achieve the economies of scale.
So you've put together a farm now. It's in its infancy now. Tell us about the farm site and the nature of that farm that you got going on.
Yeah, so I started this project in 2015, and 2017 I filed for a site and it's in Doyle Bay, about 6 miles south of Craig. It's a 127-acre shellfish and kelp farming site. It is, I think, the largest operating kelp farm in North America. So then spent a couple of years raising capital to get the operation off the ground. I left my law practice a little over a year ago and went full-time into this, and we built a nursery here in Ketchikan. We're renting space from the Oceans Alaska facility and working with them. We actually work under their permit, and it's part of, and that's been a great kind of public-private or nonprofit private collaboration, and Tommy Marsh and that group have been really good partners to work with, and I think that we benefit each other. We built that nursery. Last fall, in the fall of 2019, we propagated about 150,000 feet of bull kelp and ribbon kelp seed line.
So I'm going to interrupt you. So a lot of people are like me, we're naive to this whole process.
Okay.
But you have to make and grow seaweed. You have to put seed on a line. So explain that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So the process is we go and we collect wild reproductive material from wild kelps that are within 50 kilometers of our farm site. So we went outside of Craig and we collected this reproductive material. You bring it back to the laboratory. You stress it out, you release it into a filtered seawater solution, and then you use, we have this, it's PVC wrapped with twine that you put in these, and you inoculate the twine with the spore that's released from this wild reproductive material. So basically, it's the same system that works in the wild, except we force it to happen and we control the environment. And then those seed spools are we control the temperature and we control the nutrients and we control the light inside the nursery to allow us to basically grow them. It's a greenhouse for baby kelp, and we grow them in the nursery until they're 3 to 5 millimeters long, and then we can take those starts, those little baby kelp sporophytes, and plant them out in the farm on grow lines where they'll spend the winter growing. And in fact, today was our first harvest.
Well, congratulations on that. And so you've been growing this kelp over the winter time at this site out by Craig. You're doing your harvest. What's the next step? You're going to take some of this raw product kelp back and bring it through one of the plants in town,
Yeah, so we're going to have all of our kelp custom processed working with EC Phillips here in Ketchikan. And so that kelp will come over on the ferry in the morning and we'll go to the plant. It's just a couple of totes right now, just so we can, kind of test the systems and everybody gets a chance to try it. And that'll be here, and we'll run that tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll slowly start ramping up our production over the next 60 days.
And for those that are new to the whole idea of eating kelp, it's an indigenous food, of course, around here, but most of us have not grown up with that. It's a huge product in the rest of the world and in Asia, of course. Tell everybody, what are some things that they might find where they would eat kelp?
Well, you're right. It is a massive global industry. Globally, they produce about 30 million tons a year, most of that in China, Japan, and Korea. We've been eating kelp derivatives as carrageenan and alginates in our food for our whole life. We just didn't know it was a seaweed derivative. But seaweed is remarkably nutritious. It's used in a lot of products. Really, a lot of the seaweeds that we're growing, you can use anywhere that you would use, like a heavy green, like a kale or a spinach. You can, we use it in pastas. We have a vegetarian chowder that we use it in.
I tried some of that today, and it was fantastic. And
yeah.
And I had a veggie, would it be like a veggie
Like
kelp
a veggie
burger?
burger.
But it was,
using
with
kelp.
some, what was the seasoning in there?
Curry.
A curried burger, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
So I mean, there's just so many options to be able to do this, and what I think the industry needs to do, and what I'm trying to do in my small part, is introduce seaweeds, because it's such a sustainable way of producing nutritious food. We can that if we can get it to a point where it becomes a staple in our diets, like it is a staple in the diets in all of the Asian countries, it can, it will not only provide great economic opportunities for Alaska, but it would also provide a great source of sustainable food for North America, and that's the goal, is to try to reach that point.
So, just to back up a little bit, the seed that you're the kelp you're harvesting today, or beginning to harvest over the next week or two, whatever, was seeded when?
So we did our collections in September, and that seed started going into the water at the end of October through November into December, and we actually put some seed in the water in January. It's less developed than the stuff we put in the fall, but that's pretty typical. This year we expect to have all of our seed in the water in October.
And then you'll have it all, essentially try to have it out of the water, harvested by?
We should have it all out of the water by the end of June.
End of June, yeah. And then
hopefully before.
So it's like a lot of farms, you're probably just never going to slow down. Once it's out, you're already planning for the next harvest.
We're already planning for the next harvest.
Yeah.
We had the crew here locally.
And how many people in general have you employed or work with over the course of
Over the course of the project, we probably employed 30 people, maybe 35 people off and on. We have
We had to build the farm. That was substantial.
That
You had to
was
put the
big.
anchors out
Yep.
and all the lines.
So we built the anchor system at Sealy's with Sealy. We built the Culinary system here in Ketchikan using local Ketchikan crew, and then we've got 6 people on Prince of Wales that are employed right now, managing the farm, tending the crop, adding weight, buoys, making sure that we don't get logs in the array, and
Yeah.
because the array is it's 3,000 feet long and 600 feet wide, and we've got about 145,000 feet of kelp line in there.
And how many species are you growing right
So
now?
right now we have 2. We have Alaria, which is a ribbon or winged kelp, Alaria marginata, and then we also have Nereocystis luteana, which is the bull kelp. That
You
we're all
sound
familiar
really
with.
intelligent when you say
I
that.
know, I love it.
Latin names.
Yeah, they try to pull the Latin out once in a while.
And I know that the market is in its infancy to some degree. There are kelp farms on the East Coast. There's a few in Alaska.
All true.
Of course, you've kind of your timing is impeccable, of course, with the pandemic and so forth, as a businessman. But nobody could have anticipated this. But you're thinking might have to tell us a little bit about the economics of it. I mean,
Well, I think it wasn't ideal for the for the pandemic. A lot of the product that we had planned to put up was we wanted to direct into the retail and food, or into the restaurant and food service market.
right?
That industry is not really operating right now, but I'm confident it will come back. I do think that being in the domestic, nutritious, sustainable, renewable food production sector is a good place to be, and I think that was accentuated by the reality of the pandemic, and shortening the supply chains to get food onto people's plates is going to be where I think a large part of the food production industry goes, so that we don't have our food production capacity tied up in a few really large operations where you lose those down and you lose 10% of the national production. I think that's a model that is when it works, it's great and it's highly efficient, but when it doesn't work, it's a problem.
Yeah. Is there anything else I for this interview? I would love to get some video eventually of your site or the process of or the product coming through the plant. But anything else you'd like to add before we cut you
Well,
off there?
I think the only thing I'd like to add is that there's a number of companies in Ketchikan that are making really terrific value-added products, from pickles to relishes to pestos and things like that. And I would encourage you to try those products and use them in your everyday cooking, because I think that I'll grow raw material, but that sector, being able to produce those products locally, is going to have such a more significant economic impact in our region than just producing things and selling it.
You're saying versus the farms are going to actually have a revenue, but it's all the secondary manufacturing that's going to add a lot of.
There's a lot of value. There's a lot more value
yeah.
in making those products locally and then selling those products than it is to make a bunch of raw material,
Sure.
process it in its first primary form, and then send it out of state. There's a lot more value in that, and a lot more jobs and things like that are created through that process.
Well, thanks for talking, Mark, and
Hey.
we'll get an update soon from you. Thanks.
You bet.
Well, thanks for watching Ketchikan, Alaska News. This is a little hobby effort of mine here to put out one daily story about Ketchikan and some of the different aspects of living here. If you would like to support the channel, you can subscribe. You have to have a YouTube account. You can like the video. You can share the video. You can also hit the notification bell, and every time I put one out, you'll get a notification. And you can also donate on the opening page of the YouTube channel. There's a little donate button up in the right-hand corner there, and anything is appreciated. Thanks again for watching Ketchikan.